Good morning, Indianapolis, and the whole rest of the world watching. My name is Levi with Literation Gaming, and with me is the illustrious, infamous, beautiful Tamron TC Cardwell, and we are so pleased and overjoyed to bring you guys the commentary for the first ever GenCon 2022 Regional License Exam. A absolutely historic place for the game, where we first previewed it so many long years ago, and now we're finally back here with the finished product, ready to give you guys an amazing tournament. Tam, how ready are you for what we have in store today?
I am so ecstatic. I was so blessed to be part of one of the people getting to showcase all the previews that we had for when the My Hero game came out, that Gen Con so long ago, and to see it all come to fruition now, it's tingling in my fingers, tingling in my toes, tingling everywhere.
The magic that I talk about, right?
Right.
Ooh, it's in the bones today. It's in the bones.
And I'm excited to see we have a masterclass of players here today, an absolute slammed event, and they are playing for some amazing prices.
Yes, guys, I am looking at so many piping hot, energetic competitors throughout this entire room right now, and they are ready to fight tooth and nail for some beautiful prizes. The first thing is every one of them, just for participating in this event, is going to receive the beautiful heroic lineage from our Gen Con set of promos, and the better you do, the more copies of this beautiful bad boy you're going to receive.
This card's so amazing, dude. It's so good.
Gorgeous. An absolute staple in every single symbol it's on, and now it can be even shinier. Can't it, Tam?
Absolutely. Not to mention, they're playing for all the other promos as we top cut in. We've got the Gen Con promos available as well. Not to mention the other RLE promos.
Of course, this beautiful set of RLE promos. Excited for Blood, Dark Shadow Ruin, Erase, Acid Fling, Grasping Tape Toss, Texas Smash, and George's favorite, Shoto Todoroki 2 Dot, all in these beautiful alternate arts. The more you play, the more you top, the more of these beautiful things that you get to amass this collection of MHA CCG license exam history. But of course, only one can stand at the top, and only one can stand right under the top. And for those two very special fighters, very special humans, we have the gorgeous Frigid Heat Waves in Champion and Contender flavor. What a beautiful pair of cards.
Insane. If you thought the card was expensive before, we haven't seen nothing yet. A staple under all three symbols, Frigid Heatwave, an absolute, not just stunning picture, stunning pose, but a real powerhouse of a card. I'm excited to see one sleeved up one day.
Absolutely. You cannot put together a ranged deck on these symbols without this bad boy. It has to be in there. And now, if you are truly one of the few, the brave, first of all, to sleeve it up and play with it, but of course, the talented and skilled enough to make your way to the top and secure one of these bad boys, those are all things that you yourself can do. So just an absolute slew of beautiful things these guys are competing for.
Less than half a dozen in the wild.
Yeah. Actually crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And as we move forward, they're only going to get fewer and far between. So you guys better make sure that you are making your way out to these events to come get your hands on some of this beautiful prizing. Every single event, you get your hands on some of these things, and it's only going to get scarcer and scarcer. The promos are only going to get more and more beautiful. So come on. Make your way out here, test your chops, and get you some of these bad boys.
And more importantly, I want to see you there. Come out and hang out with the community. This game is amazing, and the people that play are absolutely amazing. So come out, shake our hands, and play for some awesome prizes.
So much
and play
fun.
some amazing card games.
Yeah, don't be intimidated by the highly skilled competitive atmosphere of these events. There's so much more magic to it than just that, and every single talented player will never shy away from helping you grow your place, advance the game. I mean, that's your specialty, isn't it,
Right.
Tamron? Instructing, teaching, and raising the next generation of young pro heroes into this perfect game we play. But Tim, I think we've talked enough, don't you think?
Completely
I am
agree.
ready to see some foundations being built, some attacks being thrown, and some of that magic flying between these competitors. So let's get right into these beautiful games we have on the line for you guys.
Welcome to round one.
So we've got Ben Shoemaker behind the Kirishima 2. We've got Dylan Bowman behind the Todoroki 2. So let's talk about what we're going to see, right? Todoroki 2 was one of those characters that very much on reveal, we thought was going to be very, very, very scary, very, very, very prevalent. And then as time progressed, we kind of saw him get a little more outshadowed by a lot more of the more consistent, more all-in aggro decks of the format. What do you think is the reasoning behind something like that, Tim?
So Todoroki's really good at making one attack really awesome, giving +2 speed, +2 damage, giving a move stun 2, and being able to recur that move that did a really good job is awesome. But that's a kind of mid-rangey, slow game plan, as opposed to we're looking at Kirishima, who on two of his attacks is going to rebuild foundations to re-ready them, essentially, draw a bonus card, and then get the extra 2 damage. And so Kirishima is going to string out longer, which seems to be the more relevant meta call, as opposed
Right.
to these big, impactful pokes. But with the power cards and the control of the stage that the order symbol has, we're going to see how Todoroki gets to handle Kirishima messing up that game plan.
Yeah, Kirishima really wants to both amass a wall and also say, hey, your big, big move actually is only half as good as it really is. So I think we're going to see Dylan kind of have to really, really take that into account and change up tact. Seeing a card that's going to be a great start to that, something like making throws really, really, really relevant chunks of damage is something Todoroki 2 is very, very good at.
Absolutely.
And I think leveraging those posts is going to be very important against a character like Kirishima. Kirishima is just simply not a character that you can kill very quickly.
Right.
He is a grinder, you know. As Todoroki 2, oftentimes you want to early game make this big 10, 12 damage move, sock your opponent for half their life, force them to play on the back foot for the rest of the game. That is not how interacting with Kirishima 2 is going to go.
100%. Yeah, like we're gonna be slinging these absolutely massive huge moves, but the longer of my turn I have go as Todoroki, I actually get kind of countered by Kirishima because Kirishima has the ability to destroy one of his foundations, one out of his hand, and then redraw one card back. And we're seeing that here now. And so Kirishima getting to do that twice per turn essentially negates the idea that Todoroki's stun 2 happened,
Right.
right?
Yeah, of
But
course.
we
And
we
one
have
of
to
the kind of biggest issues with Todoroki, right, is the longer the game goes on, the less potent his abilities are, right?
correct.
Stun two when it's a quarter of your foundations is not bad. Stun two when it's an eighth of your foundations, not great, right?
Completely agree. Completely agree. So we got a block. I mean, it sounds like a partial block, but this being a throw says it doesn't necessarily matter. Um, taking the damage, and the big thing about Todoroki here is we wanted to get this early turn poke in because that is now an attack that we get to play every turn. If you told me that there was a 5 difficulty, 4 mid for 7, stun 3 throw, everybody would play in that card at a 4 up.
Yeah, yeah.
And Todoroki has the luxury to turn these grasping tape tosses into that kind of stat line.
Exactly. So, you said this is one of your locals. Let's kind of talk about this deck a little bit because I've seen a lot of fire Todoroki. I've seen a lot of water Todoroki as well, but this is order Todoroki. What is going on here?
So the Order Todoroki build is all about having absolute control over my rival's stage, playing as many stun moves as possible, as we saw with the grasping tape toss, but playing one of the best cards from set one, Electric Jolt, being able to selectively commit pieces down, and with Todoroki's ability to lift cards back up from his momentum. Yes, my opponent gets to pick up a momentum as well, but if you can keep them off of that momentum, it's just draw one attack every turn.
Right,
And
right.
so,
And you're drawing exactly the attack that you want, i.e.,
correct.
Electric Jolt coming in every single turn, effectively saying that Todoroki actually has stun one on the opponent's turn every single turn.
Correct. And the big real kill condition for the order symbol is just 13 million indiscriminate shocks.
Right, right,
And that card getting that +2/+2, the extra stun 2, says that even if it's just the first card in your card pool, which normally Million Volts isn't, it just is a good enough kill condition to push through a lot of these low health characters.
right, right.
But Kirishima does get to response commit and say, hey, that's only half damage rounded down, so you got to play another one.
Exactly. And of course, one of the biggest things about Todoroki too is that he can make a card like 1.3 million volts actually difficult to deal with, right?
Right,
A 5 speed 1.3 million is very, very different, especially when you are completely stunned out. In some cases, that's actually unblockable depending on your mod and what's in your card pool.
right.
Yep, yep. And the order build is not it's not without its defensive tricks as well. We're seeing right now Dylan opting to eat the hardened chop, not having to get rid of 2 cards, and flipping challenging the fakes as well to make Ben's next check actually suck on on this back alley haymaker.
Correct. Yeah, minus
However,
2 to your check and is essentially breaker 2 if you want to do the math a little backwards, right?
right.
So Ben opted to see a breaker 2 coming and then is decided to play through it because of the power that Kirishima has.
Exactly. We're talking about total control of the stage with Todoroki. Well, that's also kind of Kirishima's thing as well, just simply for his own stage,
Right.
right? We're seeing us have to commit so many foundations and simply resetting them with Kirishima, building a new one with back alley haymaker, and right away we're back to where we were right before.
Absolutely. How do you feel about Kirishima 2's rise in the popularity? I think we're going to be seeing. I said it before in Orlando, the most popular character at the event, and I think if he was, if not the most top 3 for sure, do you think that that's going to stay true for this event as well because
I
of the
do.
success of Jacob had?
I do. I think it is very warranted. First of all, Kirishima is very strong, right? Say what
Right.
you will about him, this character card is very strong. He's got really good sets of abilities. He's very consistent as well,
Hmm.
and he's very forgiving, which are really, really powerful things in a tournament environment. Also, Kirishima is just a very, very popular character. People enjoy playing the character. Everyone who is playing him in set one and misses him is going to be playing the new one as well. It is a very similar play style, albeit not as overbearing as it once was. It's still a lot of what you got out of playing the original character,
Correct.
right? But I do think we're going to see a lot of adapting as well. I think it's been a little while since Orlando, and I think a lot of the really, really good players have more than likely adapted to playing against Kirishima. There are a lot of things you can learn about how to get around him, but at the same time, that's also given a lot of players who were playing him back then and or ones who picked him up because of his success in Orlando a lot of time to practice him as well.
Right.
So I think we're seeing both sides of the coin grow. I think we're going to see a lot of Kirishimas, some of them better than others, some of them worse than others, but regardless, his presentation or his representation is undoubtedly going to be massive.
Absolutely. We just hit an absolutely huge grasping tape toss.
We did.
We got to pick that up with the luxury of Todoroki's bottom ability of we both added momentum to our hand. Um, we did that on Kirishima's turn, so we guaranteed an attack going to this next one. Opts take the entire thing, choosing not to use uh, Kirishima's ability to reduce it by half.
Right.
Um,
So we have a setup strike coming in, telegraphing that we're going for a pretty crazy line here.
mhm,
The two check more than likely slowing down, if not stopping that line entirely.
right.
But at the same time, Ben's still in a pretty vulnerable position, all things considered, almost completely tapped out. Would be if it wasn't for Kirishima going for a beautiful block and a beautiful check on the setup strike now. As Dylan, this could be a risky time to play a move. So we're just going to opt for doing some building.
That is a good call. Good
Yeah,
read.
yeah, I feel like Dylan is ahead at the moment. I feel like he's in a pretty good spot, all things considered. So I
Absolutely.
don't want to give Ben a good leeway to just put me from 21 to 0 right away next turn.
100%. And if it's a character to do it, it's Kirishima too, especially under the Earth symbol with how much build you have on the attacks. Like one of the strengths of the Earth symbol right now is you kind of get a 2-for-1 value. Normally, as you play attack cards, you are slowing down the tempo of the game because you're losing that opportunity to build a foundation. But these attacks that say build foundations as you play them, like every card in Kirishima's kit, as well as Back Alley Haymaker or their
Exactly.
symbol, says you get to keep the tempo and the pace of the game up with your opponent.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about Kirishima 2, Kirishima this, Kirishima that, his strengths, his weaknesses. What does he actually do, right? And that's that play style in its entirety, right? Is just playing attacks, committing your foundations, resetting them by building new ones, building free foundations in the first place as you're just accelerating your game state, right?
Hmm.
Every attack that you play in Kirishima's kit accelerates your game state, regardless of whether or not it deals damage. And I think that's one of the strongest things about the character and how he operates as a whole, right?
Correct. 100%. We're seeing it here. We're doing a little staging area capoeira of cards getting committed. Oh, we're not re-readying them. We're lifting them and building a new one down.
Right.
I don't need
Right.
that resource anymore, so I'm gonna replace it with a better one.
Exactly. The buddy block on the
Oh,
fourth kind. The two check not so hot, but not a bad time to find it as that was the easiest block in the world due to our ice gliding
correct.
and our buddy block as itself. But the important thing is Hardened Jab gave us a free card and built a foundation, right? And
100%.
then Hardened Frenzy is going to come in and do the same thing, right? This attack will either get fully blocked and then it'll build itself face down, or it'll get half blocked and it dealt damage, right? Either way, we've accelerated our game state.
Right, right, 100%. It's a pseudo throw. And the other thing, if you notice, so Todoroki has a lot of momentum right now, but is opting not to play it because if you give Kirishima back that attack too early, he's just going to play it against you.
Right.
Yes, I netted an attack for my next turn, but he had netted an attack for his current active turn, and so having the patience there to not just always press every single enhance, every single button on your stage, kind of shows you how good the character and these players are.
100%. It really looks like we're kind of trying to put Dylan in a position where we can jam that hard and pummel, um, or quite simply get damage in and then build very, very freely, right? It's a really, really good position for Ben to be in. So many cards on the stage. Kirishima effectively saying, okay, twice per turn, reset one foundation. So I really
Mhm.
have my what? I have my seven foundations right now are actually kind of like nine.
Correct.
And then I've got so many defensive tools at my at my disposal, right? I've got the super regen to heal. I've got this learning the standards to mess up your combos and force you to play suboptimally. It's a really, really good spot to be in. Kirishima, it's just the power of the character, right? The offense and the defense at the same time, right? That is his whole thing. Hardening is for offense and defense.
Right.
You are resetting your foundations no matter what. You are damage pumping your attacks. You are holding cards you need. Obviously, one of the strongest things about Kirishima is that the build is part of the build. The card from hand is part of the cost, right? So even if you have no cards in hand, you can simply destroy a foundation and draw a card.
Absolutely.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so it looks like we've been hit with the six hand size curse. So part of the balancing aspect of the card game is characters have different hand sizes and different healths in order to keep things as fair and balanced as possible. Being a six hand size character means you don't see as many cards as our seven hand size friends, and so it's possible to draw a hand of that's not so aggressive. And it looks like that's what we have. Todoroki gets to mitigate that a bit by lifting up that momentum every turn. But because we've been hit a couple times from Kirishima's side, we're not allowed to give them an attack back.
No,
We
by
can't.
no means, no, by no
Yeah,
means can we. Not with that big of a stage, not with our current life total, and also not with the fact that we are very limited in our stage now, right? As Dylan, because there's a pull no punches sitting on our opponent's board, so going into deadlock until we have an answer for that is pretty much not an option.
correct.
We're going to need to find ourselves an electric jolt or shock treatment or something like that so we can tap it down. Otherwise, if it's not committed, that pull no punches is simply going to obliterate us
Right.
if we let the deadlock enhance pop
Rip
off
apart our
freely.
stage. We
Yeah.
don't have the luxury to ready our cards like Kirishima
No,
does.
no, we don't. Plus two speed and stun one on every punch is so potent as a deadlock threat. If you don't have an answer to it, right? It is really the only deadlock threat under Kirishima's card pool, but at the same time you have to respect it regardless.
100%. We've seen quite a few checked early, and I'm sure there's probably more on the sideboard. At least that's what I would do as a competitor. But with that card saying you're just not allowed to play with 11 foundations, especially in a matchup like this, it's for sure going to be an important piece.
Yeah, it's very polarizing, right? Right.
Love that.
It very,
Love
very,
that.
very, very much locks you out of being able to play in that game state if you don't have an answer to it.
So this was fully blocked, so I think it should be building down to the stage unless, as Kirishima decided not to play that enhance, but I don't know why we wouldn't play the card text on the card.
Yeah, I can't imagine why we wouldn't have. So it's possible that might be something that the players are missing here. We'll have a judge double check with something like that. Um, make sure we don't mess up our game state at all.
Yeah, because checking a three there, we only committed one foundation as opposed to the two. With this rebuild, we wouldn't have anything committed.
Exactly. Yeah, which
So
again, the power of Kirishima.
at this point, we'd have to assume that the player must have missed the enhance, and we can move on.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of probably the safest assumption at this point. So obviously the hardened frenzy coming down in doubles here. So once again, gonna accelerate our game state one way or another. Try and get some chip damage on Dylan here. See, hey, how many high blocks do you have? Clearly, quite a few. Unfortunately, there's missing
Wow.
times, which is not the greatest high block in the world. Um,
What an insane! Can I talk about the play here, the choice that Dylan decided to make? So, first and foremost, we decided to take the turn off to have our entire stage ready, so that whenever the onslaught happens, the oh, I think we're
oh yeah,
now getting it figured out. Okay. Anyways, sorry, trying to keep up. So we decided to not play maybe a single poke and try and put some damage through and keep our entire stage ready so that we can survive the onslaught. But the cards that we just blocked with these desperate times say response flip after your rival draws a card, they have to commit a foundation. That is so effective versus a character that says enhance destroy a foundation, draw a card, right?
exactly.
So what a high level choice. What a skilled play of like this card is exceptionally good on the field versus my opponent. Um, it's so good. We but we know we have to have that 3 high block. Even though the block modifier is bad and the ability is really good on board, we just have to make sure that it's good.
Exactly. So it looks like maybe we did call our enhances on the hardened frenzies, and we're figuring out if those are going to be building down for the time being. At the same time, Dylan clearing a lot of foundations out of his hand, looking at, and picking up our grasping tape toss. Looks like we're getting ready to sculpt a really aggressive hand here. As soon as we do make it back over to our turn. But we'll just have to see what plays out.
So from here, the board state is tied, or the life total is tied. The board state is pretty massive. From what we've seen as we're taking this small break, as we get the ruling on what to do about these hardened frenzies, if you had to make a prediction, a call right now, who takes the match, and or what has to break bad or good on either player's side to close it out?
I think it's simply a matter of Todoroki at this point in time drawing the right set of moves.
Mm,
Right. I think if we can see just a really big string of moves by Todoroki, I really believe that he can take it down. Even throughout Kirishima's defenses, they are only so finite, right?
correct. Correct. Correct.
Um,
Correct.
I think maybe we want to leverage a little more defense for a while. So obviously, it's not something we can rush into. Again, like we said, killing Kirishima, not something you can rush your way into.
Yeah, I completely agree. And kind of Ben is looking to fire in these pokes and push out as much as we can.
We're going for it. The blood
Hey,
curdle coming in. This, is something-
mhm,
this is something we talked about earlier, right? This is a very Momo and Kirishima heavy event right now. The
right.
blood curdle is a card that has a ton, and I mean a ton of value in the meta at this moment, at this point in time. And so it looks like we might just be going for it. So the grasping tape toss is going to come down. However, we as the casters here can see, there's a couple of faith shields sitting in Ben Shoemaker's hand. And it's going to be a very polarizing card here,
Okay.
especially after we've already committed to going in this turn because we've played that blood curdle,
Yeah,
right?
that blood curdle might get us there. If we can hit some solid stuns, maybe the throws aren't going to be what gets us, but like we talked about, 1.3 million volts
Right.
being a huge kill condition. I'm looking at 14 damage on board if we can commit the rest of these cards out. So
Exactly.
we only have to have one land. The question is will our checks and can we find the gas?
Right. Of course. And at the end of the day, Faith Shield is a +3 mid block. If we are completely committed out, it's going to be hard to get those blocks across. And
Correct.
between this stun 2 and this stun 1 that we can pack in, all from the power of Todoroki's character card, it's not impossible to get there. We have to block this tape toss right now. We have to Faith Shield this, and then just kind of pray from that point onwards.
Correct.
Depending on how our checks play out. Um, Making this so big is really scary because the second 1.3 might get us there if
That's
we can pass all
pretty
these
good.
checks. If we can pass all these checks. Although so it's really nice that we have to force Ben to block this one so that we can get learning the standards. And now if we can simply make a 1.3 lethal, we still cannot get learning the standards, which is really nice.
Absolutely.
But the rolling 3 checks here are not our friend.
Right.
At this point now, it is very scary territory here. This 1.3 doesn't feel unblockable. But even if it does, it also doesn't feel particularly lethal unless we really put all into it, right? It
Absolutely.
has to become, both at the same time. It needs to become lethal and unblockable, right?
Yes, correct. So we got a couple lines of play here, right? We can take and we can force Kirishima to commit all of these cards, commit all these foundations,
Right.
and make our blocks happen. But we still have a bit of a sneaky trap as Kirishima with that shock absorption in play.
We do.
Just play a ball, commit a destroy for -2 speed, which is he's deciding to pull the trigger on right now. I think that's a beautifully smart move. Not only does that reduce the amount of committed foundations that Kirishima has to make the uh, million volts a little less potent, doesn't quite get you to the 14 damage, but it does make it slow. So if we have the full block, we know it's a phase shield. We get to just take none of from this, and Todoroki is going to come out of this turn having committed every card on his board and done 0 points of damage.
Yeah. Yeah, leaving us very wide open. At the same time, you cannot block with the Faith Shield here and check a 3, or you'll die. So we're gonna see him go for the safe block here with the hardened pummel, even though it's gonna force us to take half damage, unlike the Faith Shield block. been opting to go for the I cannot fail this block, even if I check a 3 line, which I
Absolutely.
completely agree with. There's no way you can put that on the line right there, especially when you have your super regen to go in as well. So we went for the checking on this on the third one or the third attack, the second 1.3. Unfortunately, found the third 3 check, and
Yeah.
not going to get there now.
That is the deck building constraints of universes. That is the luck that goes into the game. We can mitigate that luck the best we can, but sometimes if your deck decides to roll 3 3s on all your 5 diffs, you commit out a pretty hefty board to play it.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. It is very very unfortunate. We certainly were putting ourselves in the position to, with a little bit of fortune on our side, very very easily take the game there. But that is not how it plays out. So it's going to be up to Ben now to, having just barely survived that situation off the skin of rolling 3 checks. See how Ben can come back from that now. I'm looking at the hardened chop in hand. I'm looking at the hardened pummel in hand. Big here with our pull no punches, right?
Correct.
Play our hardened chop. Cool. Do whatever you want with that. Play our hardened pummel. Pop our pull no punches. Send the chop to momentum. Pitch the momentum. Make our hardened pummel 10 damage. Give it another 2 with Kirishima. Another 1 with tight lipped. 1 damage off of lethal.
Correct. And we haven't even thought about the fact that Kirishima gets to draw 2 bonus cards, right?
Exactly.
And so we get to just draw a bunch.
Right. At this point, we only really need to find one more move. Alternatively, we need this hardened chop to land some damage. So it's gonna be it could be very up to if Dylan has the low block here or not. Which, considering we just played double 1.3s, 2 low blocks out of our hands, if this chop has to get half blocked, it's probably just not getting blocked at all. Which then is just gonna make our pummel very very lethal. And at 5 speed, at 5 speed, pummel could actually be really 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 scary to deal with. So we do have to low block, making the 6 check, discarding our other card, and saying, hey, come at me, man. What can you do? So we have the Hardened Frenzy in hand now. So at this point, if the Chop and the Frenzy both get there, I think this is going to be Ben's game to take down.
Yeah, this is lethal. The question is, what do you
Extremely.
lead off, knowing that with the ice gliding, it has the text of if the last move was blocked, we get to give the next one either plus or minus speed. Obviously, as Todoroki, we're going to pick the minus, so we have to figure out which of these moves is going to be the slowest, and the answer is they're both the same. Frenzy has the ability of, if you've built a foundation this turn, it gets +1/+1, turning its base 4 speed into 5, and then Pummel already starts at the 5.
Right. So,
We're choosing
opting
not
to go for the build.
to let it go.
Interesting. I wonder if, as Ben, we're not seeing the pull no punches line here.
That might be true. That might be true.
Because then your hand looks very not lethal, right? Your hand looks very, very not lethal if we're not seeing that line. So that might have been what happened there.
And if we do decide to get rid of that pull no punches, like you said, it's the only deadlock threat that we have on the board.
Of course, yeah.
So it could be a, I'll find the attacks later. That is okay. But an
Right.
absolutely massive move coming in.
Right. Dylan finding a very, once again, 6-hand aggro problem hand here with very, very few moves. But we have the one we need, right? We have the one important one to bring the game state back into our control.
Right.
With Searing Glacial Storm. Order, first enhance. Both of us go down to 5 foundations,
Correct.
and then we end the enhanced step. A very, very powerful ability at the moment. Of course, with Dylan having a lot of face down foundations, he's glad to get rid of. Ben not in such a position, right?
Absolutely
Ben
not.
with a big board of moves that he wants to work with. Especially building in these new things like it can't be fixed, the celebrity status. They are so obvious to reset those massive 1.3 million volts and things like that. A lot of things we want to keep here, so a lot of hard decisions for Ben to make.
And the big thing here is like we've opted to keep a lot of these foundations that say destroy, remove. So we could rip apart our own stage as Ben. Maybe keeping some of these might not have been the correct call. We have to decide now: do we take how much damage do we take? We're opting to go all the way down to 6. Refusing to use the partial block on Kirishima because of being afraid of what else is to come.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in there though, as Ben, right? It's hard to know what you should be blocking at this point. And then Dylan, very happy to see that because we know that is his only move in hand.
What an insane build. Can I talk about one of my new favorite cards?
Absolutely, please.
Drowning in Resentment.
Card is crazy.
The card is very, very cool, and I think really important inside of the current meta. We were talking earlier in the match about two of the most represented decks being both Kirishima 2 and Momo. Both of those characters are playing so many cards that build cards in from your discard pile,
Mm-hmm.
move cards in. After a card leaves a discard pile due to your rival's non-character effect, so things like Back Alley Haymaker, we get to take the top card of your rival's deck and add it to the card pool face down. That is essentially breaker 1 for the entire turn. Are you using your Back Alley? Are you using your Create Capture Net? No, you don't get to, because I'm going to
Exactly.
breaker 1, and at this point, breaker 2 you.
Yeah.
Ben Shoemaker does not get to rip cards out of his discard pile to attempt to rebuild. He's got to play with the 5 that Dylan gave him.
Exactly, and again, it's a very, very polarizing card, especially in kind of like you were talking about those Momo matchups, right? Quick creation, I'll put one in. Oh well, actually, you'll put a new one in face down, and now your combos are completely ruined.
Absolutely.
Right, completely ruined.
And not to mention, it's got like a really cool +2 or -2 damage on stun moves, and those are absolutely running the format right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, we just talked about Great Capture Net and Haymaker, and
1.3
literally
million volts, right?
every move that Todoroki wants to sling, it's got the stun keyword. So a little damage pump, a little damage reduction. There's kind of not a bad mode on that card.
Yeah. So now, like as Dylan, we went from like almost being dead to suddenly being in a very, very scary position here, right? Dylan being very, very, very higher on life total, grabbing our Searing Glacial Storm back because it hit one of the most pivotal things, honestly.
Yeah.
And now just with a much, much bigger stage, amassing a very intimidating presence over our opponent here. Ben now at 3 life, kind of desperately trying to figure out what to do. Do I go for the kill? Do I go for tempo? But at this point, with 3 life left, the second that I, as Ben, hold the wrong block zone, I'm getting obliterated.
This is an
Very
interesting
interesting,
line. This is a Texas Smash, one of the beautiful RLE Season 2 promos that we have coming out here. Absolutely stunning card. If you're not here today, you're missing out on it. That's rough. This card is a 3 damage move.
It is. At the moment, this is a very, very 3 damage move. Well, a 5 damage move now after our Kirishima.
Correct.
Right? But regardless, a very, very slow move due to things like ice glidings. Due to ice glidings on ice glidings.
Yeah.
That move sucked. This move sucked. Our next move kind of sucks too.
Yeah, we're sliding everywhere, man.
Yeah. We're gliding right as Todoroki right now. So it looks like we're going to be going Texas Smash into. So we do have a second Texas Smash in hand. So Texas Smash and Texas Smash is the logical play here. At the same time, though, again, with such a big stage, it's just going to be a matter of how many high blocks does Dylan have.
Yeah.
We do also have a Frenzy in hand to go into as well.
It does look like we're opting to.
Love this.
What a sick play! I would love to pull up Rockin' Attitude.
Rockin' Attitude,
because
one of my favorite cards.
A
right
card
now, actually.
from the DLC that a lot of people I think are sleeping on. You want to talk about how good this card is?
Yeah, simply when you block, being able to remove and then send your attacks and momentum, doing so many things for you. It depends on the interactions of your character. Obviously in Todoroki, it's very good. I will block with the stack, put in some momentum, pick it up, block with it again. Or in this case, pick up my current momentum, block with it, stuff it right back in. Next turn, I'll pick it right back up again. A lot of really, 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 really cool loops. Has a lot of really, really cool interactions in a lot of different characters. And for simply a remove cost on your 2-diff foundation is not really that scary. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a really, really good trade-off. You're also clearing your card pool defensively, getting rid of your progressive difficulty. Simply so many benefits coming from one simple move.
Yeah, as long as you can, so trading your 1-for-1, 1 card in your card pool for 1 card in your stage, is actually an even trade. But if you can successfully play more than 1 block into your card pool with that card cleared, you're actually getting a positive return on just the simple math that you play as you're playing out your block zones, or your block strings, excuse me. So like that's the reason Rockin' Attitude is so good on defense, and we look at pull no punches on offense. Normally you trade 1-for-1 foundation to clear the card pool. It's not that great of a move, but the further you go in your strings, the more that you're going to see that result. And so, kind of a bonus to think about as we're moving.
Right. So only the half block coming in on the Texas Smash here, meaning the Frenzy coming in with +4 damage. Getting damage from Kirishima is going to be a fairly lethal move. So Ben finding a really, really, really interesting line here to be able to secure the game.
We do have a passing the torch, which allows us to draw 2 more cards. And this move, it is fast, but I think with maybe a lucky check, we might be able to find a line. Just really depends.
It's also going to be in our block mod, right? If we did not pick up a high block, this half block is going to defeat us.
Correct.
So, this being a very, very threatening move at the moment. Of course, gaining the 1/1. We are a 5. Best case scenario, we can have a 1 high block, checking on an 8, which does allow us to check a 3. That is, of course, if we found a high block and if it's that good. So we did find our 1 high block. So at the moment, this is not a block that we can fail.
Correct.
Unless we check a 2. So on an 8, we do not check our 2. All 3 of these coming down. Obviously, Ben having no cards remaining. Turn is going to be ending. Now, of course, we are Kirishima, right?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we're taking both of our momentum. We are Kirishima, so we are going to be able to make something half damage rounded down and or draw a free card, but not when Dylan has Blood Curdle in hand.
Correct.
Once again. So I think this is definitely going to be wrapping up to be Dylan's game here. Really, really, really crazy. It almost looked like Ben pretty much had the game in hand a couple times there.
Right.
And Dylan able to navigate defensive enough lines to map it out successfully.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And at this point now, we have a couple moves in hand. We have damage pumps on our board. We have Todoroki to pick up our momentum and get our Glacial Storm back. I don't think there's anything Ben can do here to not fall prey to Todoroki's vicious, fast attacks.
So I want to talk about the learning the standards that stayed on the table, because I mean this game is over, right?
Okay, yeah.
That card was built on turn 1. And Ben has now died with it on his board.
Yeah.
He has chosen not to use the ability one time. There were some high impact cards that we could have flipped in order to flip after the build phase. We had a ton of opportunity to I'll soak this half blocked attack using Kirishima's response, and you now have to breaker yourself by playing a non-attack card next.
Right, yeah. I don't know if we ever even actually saw Ben use Kirishima's response that game.
He might not have.
I actually don't think we saw it once.
Huh. That might be.
We opted to perfect block most moves or simply take them and not respond out of respect for scarier moves down the line. At the same time, though, it's not as much a matter of opting not to use our learning the standards, because if we remember back to Dylan's previous attack turn before the Glacial Storm, the 1.3 turn, right? All of the moves were set up to be scary enough to where taking them almost wasn't exactly an option.
Right.
And we could have Kirishima response to take half and then learning the standards. We opted not to do that because we wanted to leave Kirishima ready so that we could use our destroy, rebuild, draw a card.
Makes sense.
So Dylan essentially manipulating his attacks very well on that turn to put Ben in that awkward position of, do I Kirishima respond here so that I can learn the standards? But then is that actually the bait, right? Because then I cannot reset my cards anymore. Then these 1.3s come in and they stun me to death and I blow up.
Absolutely.
So it was really just a matter of both players navigating the situation very well, creating some very, very tough decisions to make. And unfortunately, the decisions that Ben made are the ones that led to his defeat in this game.
Yeah. For sure.
Of course, that's why there's a game 2.
Absolutely, and hopefully a game 3. I just want to see more of My Hero.
I agree. I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting to see these version 2 versions of these characters duking it out, right?
Absolutely. So we're getting done with siding. We're getting into it. And you've talked a little about the reason that Ben lost. I want to talk about the reason that Dylan won. Right? Had a lot of composure when checking back to back threes on a kill string and being able to leverage some still quality defensive positions, not getting tilted, not getting frustrated, and realizing, because of how skillful I am, not just as a player, but as the deck that I've chosen to take, I know I can play my way out of this.
Right. It is very, it's very easy to be frustrated there because Dylan's obviously calculated his line and said, hey, as long as I don't check 3 threes, I win the game.
Right.
And that is the exact situation that happened. Very easy to be tilted there, very easy to be frustrated there. But like you said, we maintained composure. We built cards, and then we proceeded to make sure we leveraged our blocks correctly to not lose the game that turn.
Makes sense.
And once again, on the other side of things, Ben not going for that line we talked about might have been the thing that came back to bite him, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely and totally.
So, Hopefully we see. Hopefully we see. I want to see. I want to see Ben being a little more. Ooh, yeah,
Going for our third
hands,
mulligan.
These hands looking a little rough. Last one
Says
looking okay though.
we are not
Okay.
a fan of it.
Yeah, I think this game I would like to see Ben be a little more aggressive. I think that we chose to maybe be a little too hands off until the very end, and then we ended up going for a line that was barely even guaranteed lethal to begin with. Obviously, some good draws and some good checks on Dylan's part surviving the turn.
Right.
But you know, at one point we played a Texas Smash without a punch behind it.
Absolutely.
A little bit prospect, I might say.
Yeah, for
Right?
sure. I mean, without the high block, it was over. So I think it was a fine
Of
calculated
course, yeah.
line. But it really is. So like we have the idea of like being more aggressive, but at the same time, you have the flip of it where you actually want to sculpt more. I think the reason Ben's struggling so much is because he's not doing either, right?
Yeah.
He's not slamming every move, and he's not like waiting and sculpting a big kill turn. He's kind of giving me this like half-hearted approach to it, and
Right.
I think that might be truly the real issue here.
Right. I feel like we didn't actually see him commit one way or the other until the very end there.
Correct.
When once again it was in a situation that depleted his hand without coming close to resulting in a guaranteed victory. Right?
100%.
So it was a scary spot to be in, and maybe not a risk that he necessarily needed to take at that point in time. So maybe the best way to go about it is being aggressive at the right point in time.
Absolutely.
So I want to see him maybe calculate that a bit better this game. And I think we're going to see Dylan, if anything, maybe play a lot safer, knowing he's got that one win in the bag, trying to make this a very, very clean 2-0.
Absolutely. Apathetic coming in. One of the big reasons that I like the Earth symbol at the moment, enhance, flip, selectively flip one of my opponent's foundations, and this is going to get Kirishima's destruction ability online. So not only are we get to rebuild cards with the Hardened Chop, we get to rebuild and draw with Kirishima, and now we actually have access to Homage to our hero that says, now that I have built this turn, all of my moves get +1 damage.
Yeah.
What an insane card.
Yeah, Homage definitely being one of the things that really pushes Kirishima 2 over the edge. Being able to have repeatable +1s to all your moves is so powerful, especially for a character who is already putting damage on his moves. And then yeah, Apathetic, honestly, you know, we saw it be such a premier card in the set 1 days, right? In every single Earth deck, Earth Kirishima being one of the most prominent decks. You know, this was a card that everyone knew, and now it's really just kind of fallen off. Really a matter, really more so a result of those symbols falling off more than anything.
sure.
But of course, Kirishima 2 is very much bringing the Earth symbol back to power, bringing a card like Apathetic back to power as well. Easily one of the most underrated pieces of that deck, and actually not one that was included only in the sideboard of Jacob Johnson's regional winning deck.
Interesting.
Made the decision not to main deck Apathetic, and I think that might be a little bit of an adaptation, right? Because something I spoke about earlier was I think people have learned how to play against Kirishima 2 a little more over the time that's passed since, and I think one of the biggest things that they could have learned is playing into deadlock.
Right.
The only deadlock threat in this deck is of course pull no punches. Which, if that's something you're able to deal with, whether or not you can just survive through the speed buffs and the stuns, or if you have a way to seal it or flip it or destroy it or remove it in some way, once that's out of the equation, you get to play in deadlock all that you want, basically. And so I think Apathetic being one of the pieces there to kind of come in, not necessarily as a deadlock threat, but it has the ability to flip any threatening deadlock piece itself.
100%.
Right? When you're Kirishima and you're wanting to build into deadlock yourself, you'll be wary of the opponent's deadlocks. Apathetic is a card that says, hey, any deadlock foundation I can simply take care of. Your super duper scary first villain encounters under the water symbol, it's gone. It's flipped. It's completely out of the equation ages ago. So I'm really excited and glad to see that card is starting to make its way into the current Kirishima 2 lists.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we've got a Searing Glacial Storm on the table, and we're getting to see the other side of it, right? So it starts at a 2 high for a 6 with printed stun 2, Todoroki giving an additional stun 2. So since we are so early in the game, Kirishima just is forced to take that entire stage and turn it sideways.
Right.
Once again, opting not to respond with our character. We assumed there was only one attack coming, right? It was unblockable. So let's just, as opposed to taking our 8 damage, let's take our 4 damage and carry on our way,
I understand wanting to hold the Kirishima enhance, but at the same time, anything coming after this, even with Kirishima resetting 1 foundation, probably isn't a very blockable move.
Right.
So I think it's really safe to just conserve the damage there and respond with Kirishima.
Yeah, I completely agree. And here we have, I mean, we've got Kirishima swinging again, but this time with our pommel, we have a momentum. We we have lethal technically, I'm pretty sure. With even just the cards that we have in our hand currently. If both of these moves connect, they probably won't, but we technically have 19 damage in our hand.
We do, we do. But I have to imagine that we're going to see some blocking shenanigans going on. However, if Dylan, like last time, simply opts to take the hardened chop, not wanting to get rid of 2 cards, that is a very, very free poke for Ben, who can then just build from that point onwards.
Correct.
You know, and then if Dylan does block this, it possibly puts us in a position to deal a lot of damage with hardened pummel. So again, Dylan opting to just take even the big damage number from the hardened chop. Again, the homages to my hero really coming in clutch here, showing their power. A bit of, not the worst check in the world, not the best check in the world,
Agreed.
but specifically getting to leave both of our homages up is going to be really, really huge here. Building in a new foundation as Kirishima. This is going to end up to be a 5, 10, 12 damage move. 14 if we opt to use Kirishima's Destroy again, which I
Right.
have to imagine we will. Wanting to reset our stage more to go into the next turn.
Absolutely. And because we've now used the momentum ability on Pummel, we have allowed Todoroki to lift that Searing Glacial back to our hand, which has a beautiful 1 mid block. This is the most blocked move of all time.
Absolutely.
That's all based on the sequencing that we decided to do as Kirishima. This is an absolutely massive move. This is 15 damage, but we we block it easily because of the fact that we get to pick some stuff up.
Yep, and now Dylan, our Todoroki player, has his Searing Glacial Storm back, and it's really hard as Ben now because you're like, well, I don't want to build anymore now because I know the Searing Glacial is just going to come in, so I'm just going to jam some more moves on the table.
Right.
I love it. This will either deal damage or clear itself and build one, so it's pretty much a no-brainer of when to jam as long as you don't check horrendously, which as Ben Shoemaker, we did not.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a 7 damage move coming in unless it gets blocked, which we're doing. We're holding every block zone that we know that the Earth symbol is wanting to play, which is incredibly intelligent, right? This is at this point Dylan's game to lose, finding 18 damage after we stun out the entire board should be
we may
relatively
see
easy.
Dylan go for the win here. We do have a Blood Curdle in hand. That coming down, combined with some stun 2s, and our +2/+2s, puts a lot of moves in a very unblockable range as Ben, with only 2 foundations up. So Searing Glacial is going to come in, checking the 3 sadly. Once again, really, these checks not coming in to support our kill lines for Dylan at any point in time.
Correct.
But we persevere. Right.
That's the life of Todoroki too. I've felt it every time I play the character.
We persevere.
We love checking 3s on 5s.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're gonna play every five diff move in the entire world. So the remove going to have effectively no detriment towards Dylan, and it's gonna get one thing out of the equation for Ben here.
I think we're opting to stun as
Yeah,
opposed
sorry,
to remove.
the stun.
Yeah,
The stun.
yeah.
The stun.
I was
effect-
like,
the
removing
stun-
what? Excuse
the
me?
stun removing things from the equation for Ben. Poor choice of words on my part
all good.
there.
It's all good.
Momentum is one of my favorite words in the English language, and it is very difficult to use it when describing things, exciting things that happen
Agreed.
to progress the game state
Right,
and
right.
generate an advantage in the My Hero Academia collectible card game. So hey, look, we got a face shield out of the equation. Our 3 checks said we're not allowed to really continue here. Let's simply build some foundations and ensure we can have another good defensive turn as Dylan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were looking really to use that award the victor there. One of the provisional promos that you have, response after your attack deals damage, you can add it back to the top of your deck. Even though we attacked with a 2-check, I mean, turning your 2-check into a 4-check says that, I mean, it's better than a 3-check at that point, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not the best check in the world, not the worst check in the world. So let's see what Ben can come back here with. We really would like to see some regaining, kind of not necessarily regaining control of the game state, because I think Ben is in an okay position, but I think he really wants to press the advantage right now.
Right.
The issue is we have to be so wary of Searing Glacial Storm, right? It's a card that says, hey, if we build 4 pass now, we just get wrecked by that card.
Correct.
And in our very, very gray hand here as Ben, that is a tough spot for us to be in, because we really don't want to just let Dylan just remove all of our cards for free.
Correct. 100%. As well as we have enough foundations as Todoroki, and these cards are so impactful. It's possible that we can string a bit. I mean, we saw us searing into a 13 million. We have to leverage how many cards do I build, how many cards do I have. Like there's a lot of nuance to a hand of all foundations, because
Right,
it's saying that I'm no longer taking the tempo of the game.
Exactly. So, and just like you were saying, 1.3 million being a very scary card right now because as Ben, we have built the only low block in our hand. We are holding two mids, praying that Kirishima can find us some better zones if we do need them. Thankfully, Dylan's hand is very, very tame. I think we're looking at double setup strike and 4 foundations. So, not necessarily anything scary coming out of here. Dylan realizing that whatever he does here, it's probably not going to get him very far.
For sure.
Opting to do a very, very safe build too. Holding 4, allowing him to be in a comfy position to block 2 things, hold on to his 2 setup strikes, and continue to sculpt a more potent attack hand. Kirishima 2, very, very big Kirishima 1 energy. Do not count on doing much meaningful damage unless you can get 3, 4, 5 attacks in there.
Right.
At the same time, you got to do all that, resulting in either a victory or not leaving yourself in a position to be backswung heavily, which is hard to do.
I love the analogy of Kirishima building the unbreakable wall.
The unbreakable wall, yeah.
Yeah, feels really, really good there.
It is a
So
good thematic.
here is one of my favorite feelings in the My Hero card game. When you build 3, not committing any resources to do so, and you look at your opponent and you know they have attacks in their hand and they still feel like they're not allowed to play them.
Yeah.
You know it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, nah, I'm safe. I'm
Yep.
safe. And the mental damage that puts on people is just really, it's an interesting
100%.
interesting
Yeah,
thought.
it feels like you are throwing your cards away,
Yeah.
right? Because when you start your turn, you ready all your committed cards and you draw all new cards. We are not progressing our game state at all if all we're doing is getting blocks that Dylan wants out of his hand.
Right.
But once again, we are at least progressing a little bit because, like we said, that is the thing of the earth attacks, right? Here comes our build or our draw, at least from Back Alley Haymaker. So it's going to replace itself at the end of the day.
For sure. 100%.
Which isn't as good as getting meaningful damage on the board, but it is at least something. Especially when you've got a Texas Smash to follow it up on. Saying, hey, have a high block, I dare you to. And again, as Dylan, with double setup strike and a blood curdle in our hand, we would love to go into our next turn with all 3 of those cards. So at the very least, Ben's going to be getting some solid moves that would otherwise threaten lethal on him next turn out of Dylan's hand.
Absolutely. And I want to say that all of these are going to be swinging for lethal because of the double homage that we have, right? This is a 7,
Correct.
8, 9, 10, 11 move with Kirishima.
Mm-hmm. And if we're gonna put +4 damage on the next one, it's certainly gonna find lethal. We would need to be a very, very piddly move to not reach 10 at that point onwards. So
Absolutely.
we are really, really, really challenging Dylan here to block everything. Which very well is something he could do with 4 cards in hand. We have a fruit of our labors on board. We have a shock treatment in case it comes down to the last foundation. If anything, maybe the first thing we did as Dylan should have just been to commit something down on Ben's board. But at the same time, we were talking about feeling so comfortable defensive-wise in Dylan. That's probably not even a thought that occurred to him.
Absolutely. We also have things like fruits of our labors to clear our card pool. So like we could, there's a really good chance even if we string out as Kirishima, Todoroki's still got some defensive schmoes for sure.
Right. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how many moves we can find as Ben. Because with so many foundations and with Kirishima existing, it's going to be easy to put a lot of them on the board. We simply need to find them. This would be the most beautiful Texas Smash in a Texas Smash turn I would ever see.
Right.
So it looks like at the moment all we have is a Hardened Frenzy in hand, but that's going to be a beautiful one to jam down, forcing a full block essentially, unless you want to half block and take half your health total.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? And that means that, now, because of how big all of Kirishima's other moves are going to be, you have to full block the rest of them, right? It's either full block this one or full block the other ones. So that's the question that we leave ourselves.
Yep. So it looks like we may have drawn an extra card or something like that, because we had a revealed card. We are now shuffling, fixing our game state. Perhaps we check 2 cards at once or something like that. Or maybe opted to use a Kirishima that we didn't mean to use. Regardless, we are repairing the game state so we can go back to being on this exciting Texas Smash. Coming in with -1 speed from the Ice Gliding. Ice Gliding, such a potent card.
You know, I love Ben Shoemaker. He's one of my very close friends. He's playing very sloppy today.
He has been a little sloppy today,
Yeah.
I will say.
We promised high octane, amazing gameplay, and that's not what we're getting right now.
I did promise some high octane business here.
Yeah.
And right now, we're seeing some. I want to say this is maybe some mid octane stuff.
Great.
Don't quite know if I'd say low octane, but I'm feeling a little mid on the octane right now.
I totally agree.
But it's his Texas Smash, right? So we have the opportunity to turn it up.
yeah.
It all depends on what the future holds for our attacks as Ben here. Again, Dylan looking at a very, very tantalizing 10 life. 10 life is always one of those numbers that doesn't actually feel impossible, but at the same time can be just out of reach a lot of the times. So, like we were talking about earlier, there's the shock treatment coming in to commit one of the homages, possibly one of the first things we should have done. But now, maybe since we knew we had our full block on the back alley regardless, now it's something we can kind of wait, maybe taunt Ben, right, into going into more. And now that we really committed to this aggro a little more, now we can commit down this thing.
100%.
Yep.
So, man, rough spot. We were forced to block with 2 attacks. I mean, that's 10 damage that we're not threatening Shoemaker next turn.
Right. And it appears that we don't have the high block. So actually this Hardened Frenzy coming in with a Texas Smash damage pump is going to present lethal on the
100%.
half. Dylan playing really well, but unfortunately it looks like not finding those high blocks going to be the thing that actually does us in right here in the long run.
And we're going to see if Dylan opts to scoop it up here.
Yep, we do have a low block and a mid block in hand. Very unfortunate. Yeah, the Hardened Frenzy already being an 8 damage move, only going to get just a little bit bigger.
There it
Announcing we have no high block, and it is time to move on to the game 3.
So let's talk about, why did Dylan lose that game, do you think?
I think we kind of just saw the same 6 hand size problems that we encountered game 1. They just unfortunately hit us a little harder that time. If Azula we could have found a grip of attacks on that previous turn, very possible we could have taken Ben down to 0.
Yeah.
Same thing for the turn before that. Like we said, on that one turn, it felt like we had a really, really threatening string in our hands, and then on our first 5 diff, we checked a 3.
Right.
And then if we checked another one, it was pretty much going to be a free victory for Ben by being taken down.
Absolutely. So, conversely, I think Ben played a lot of smarter lines to win the game.
I agree.
His lines of play, while technically sloppy, and I gotta give him the mess for it. I think that the choices that he made and the foundations that he found, right, finding that homage to my hero so early, saying that I'm pushing on, attacking on that extra 1-2 points of damage every time that you don't or partial block, is just enough pressure that we saw Todoroki just like kind of crumble under the small mini strings that we were allowed to play.
Right, of course, yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, we saw pretty much Ben go for the same style of kill turn, Texas Smash and Hardened Frenzy and that nonsense. This time, as Dylan, we simply just weren't holding high blocks. We drew our 6 cards. That 6 card hand didn't allow us to attack. It said that 6 cards said build and defend, and that 6 cards left us with no high blocks as well.
Yeah.
Which, again, against a punch deck, Texas Smashes are just going to eat you alive.
Absolutely.
If you don't have your high blocks, they're going to be so big, they're going to chip you down, and when you only have 10 life, that chips down very, very, very fast.
For sure.
So, a little bit of misfortune on Dylan's side, a bit of fortune on Ben's side that he was able to clinch it out there, and force this game 3, which we do know that we have about 3-4 minutes left in the round right now. So a game 3 that Ben is very much going to be looking to leverage to survive.
Right.
Because obviously Dylan on Todoroki 2 is the character that can put that can put 0 life down a lot faster.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I think we've kind of just acknowledged that
Wait.
I think we either have
mulliganed 3 times into a 1 foundation.
we either have 1 foundation in our hand. Yeah, we actually only have 1 foundation in our hand. Wow, that's actually crazy.
Oh no!
Is there maybe a world where where Ben kills on the next turn?
Yeah.
After a build 6, after a build 5, after
I
a
was
build
gonna
5.
lose my mind. So man, what an unlucky draw from Dylan. So the worst part about this is, since we're now playing in a time crunch, right? I'm gonna get excited is we have less buttons to press, but we still have to like take our time and play them. Our options are exclusively to play attacks.
Absolutely.
So we're going to grind out 2 minutes here. Ben's going to get the last turn of the game because we're not taking 3 minutes on this because both these players have an exceptional rate of play. There's no ability on the foundation. We only have stun 1, stun 2, +2/+2.
Right.
Can't be blocked. There's only 4 enhances Dylan can do.
Regardless
and
of
Ben
the
pass.
Right.
We're pushing through.
Right, and regardless of the amount of the enhances, Ben is the turn 2 player here, so he's going to get one more turn regardless.
Good point. Good point.
As Dylan, regardless of how quickly things go here, he understands that he understands that he needs to just make sure that he can force this draw and make sure Ben doesn't take him out on the next turn.
Absolutely.
Which with 2 jolts going to the momentum, pretty unlikely that that Ben will be able to clinch it up, but you never know, right? What happens when Texas Smash and a Texas Smash and a Texas Smash? We bank all of our checks, reset all of our foundations with Kirishima, and just simply go crazy. But it doesn't look like we found 27 as Ben here. Of course, we are Kirishima, right?
Right.
The night is young, right? We have a lot more cards to draw before we can truly say if we found it or not. The apathetic to flip the challenge in the fakes here is going to be massive.
Don't even need to. Stun 2, baby.
You're right, though.
Yeah.
You're right.
Turn them all sideways.
You're right, though.
Yeah, you don't even play with those.
What a cool ultra rare back alley haymaker is, isn't it?
I think it's a rare, actually.
Is it really,
Yeah, you can go pick them up from any of your local card stores for very, very cheap. One of the most high impact meta cards in the entire game.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Truly the strength of budget cards in the Hero Academia card game right now.
So this is I mean, this is a dangerous line, right? Like we're building cards, we're building cards down, we're redrawing cards, we're trying to have our stage be as big as possible. We have the option with Haymaker to either attempt to draw more gas, draw more action to our hand, or build out a bigger stage so we can pass the action that we have. And so like we could be seeing some absolutely huge, massive lines. Ooh, but that isn't a
big
breath,
5 check there.
A breath
big
of fresh air.
5 check there. Gonna be hard to if that block failed. 27 felt actually possible.
Correct.
Now I'm not sure it is, but we do have hardened jab. So we've got a lot of foundation resets there, and those are actually pretty big damage moves.
I think whatever we do, we have to play it quickly. So the fact that we have to be able to fire our attacks as fast as we can to get back to Dylan's turn, so we can make sure that we have one more. We gotta get those big pokes. We gotta swing hard. But like at this point, we are playing the clock, which is something that you should be doing for competitive play. Understanding what times we start, understanding what times we finish, it's important.
Yeah, these players do have a couple minutes left. So there is a world where Ben finishes this turn without securing the victory in a timely manner, gives Dylan another turn intentionally, which is very low risk considering it's going to be very hard for Dylan to kill Kirishima 2 on 2 foundations.
Right.
Seems pretty tough. And then Ben gets another turn to actually try and clinch the win out. So listen, that's where we're going here, being very content with our couple, with our damage in, and saying, hey, now here's your next turn. You can't kill me. You better finally find some foundations and build enough to make sure I don't do 20 on my next turn.
Right. Approximately 3 minutes left in the round, and the decision that Dylan have to make needs to be quick and opts to play attacks, checking a 3. My hero
is really frightening, actually.
His deck is just deciding to take a break round 1, and that's okay, you know?
Sometimes that's where the cookie crumbles, man. Everyone loves the underdog story.
Yeah. Okay, so we opt to use celebrity status in order to stack that back alley hammer back up on top of our deck. We now get to destroy, build a card down. I love this play. And then we will redraw our card. Oh, hey, look, a back alley haymaker. Where'd that come from, huh? Not to mention having the ability to use the shock treatment if we so wish, as well as the face shield in our hand. If we check fairly decently, we get to just stop the 10 damage, 12 damage that will be coming through here, if we so choose.
Right. Yeah. And then we did see Ben going for the apathetic to flip the challenge in the fakes here. Maybe a little bit early, if anything. Like what happens when Dylan builds a new ready challenging the fakes now, and we wish we could be flipping that one.
Yeah, I think that is fair, but there are. I mean, how much could we? Oh, It's our first response to Kirishima of the whole day.
It is.
Hey.
It is. We are opting to hold all of the beautiful cards in our hand.
Yeah, I might be afraid of
Is there a world where we make a 5 check on this second 1.3 and finish the game here? It gets +6 damage after stud 1.
absolutely, but -2 speed because of the
Shock absorption.
shock absorption.
Yep. So actually, if we use that right now, it will only become a 10 damage move. Because it'll get +1 less damage for each
Correct.
committed foundation. But we're simply opting to go for... We said screw it. We'll check the 5. Ben Shoemaker, the god.
Excuse me, Ben. Excuse me. Oh wow.
Shock absorption doesn't have text, Tim.
Yeah, apparently not.
It simply
Apparently
simply
not.
doesn't. So, more than likely in time now, Ben getting the final turn here to see if we can put 20 on board. We've got a chop, we've got a haymaker, we've got a jab. God, if we could just get Texas Smash at some point through our draws, I think this is actually Ben's game.
I think we have lethal. We opted to put a jab into the stage.
We did.
Whenever we built, we have a jab in hand.
We
So
did. So it's simply a matter of passing them all and whether or not Dylan can once again pass that one block.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But at this point, it would take a 3-speed move, which jab is, so there's a world where a jab can be blocked here, and maybe that is what makes us not get 20 there. So we're opting, actually we do have 6 checks in our deck.
We certainly do.
opted to try for that block on a 6. We do have 6 checks in our deck. Unfortunately, one not rearing its face. Chop gonna come in now, checking the 3.
This is okay.
Yeah,
we're
going to
both Kirishima
reset
and Chop.
2. Yeah, we're going to
fine.
reset 2 with Kirishima and with Chop. And we're going to dig for more cards.
Building with Chop first.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a totally fine play. Then opting to destroy, then lift with
Kirishima, destroy, build, draw. Looks like we found a foundation, unfortunately. But I think, again, it's going to be dependent on if we can execute one block as Dylan here.
From here, I mean, the answer is just jab, jab, right? Like
Absolutely.
It just has to be. Question is
checking the 5. Jab and Kirishima going to reset it all.
Correct. Choosing to pick up this second jab, and then if this is an attack, which we should look. We'll get to find out.
Destroy, build down our foundation, draw. Once again, not finding an attack, but I'm not sure. Again, it's going to be dependent on if we can execute a block here as Dylan. We need to get that one block
5.
in. On a 4, checks at 2. Checks at 2. Shows our other jab, and that is it.
Wowzers.
Wow. Crazy comeback from Ben there in the 5-minute game victory.
Yeah, and that was exclusively due to poor luck. That's all that it was.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. There's a lot of very, very make or break checks and draws in that game, which that's kind of one of the things about high level Universus, right? It is a very, very, very skill dependent game. But also, when you have 2 very, very high skill players playing at an even level with almost even decks as well, it is actually just going to come down to those very, very little random number variance type of situations.
100%. I claim to be the person that's played this game the absolute most in the entire world. That I've claimed that. At least on my hero version. I play a lot of games on stream, okay? And the number of times that I have seen a non-game go like that with our triple mulligan for going first of draw 6, set it back, draw 6, set it back, draw 6, and have one foundation in hand. 1 in 10,000 games, maybe.
It's extremely rare.
It's so rare.
If you watch all of these streams, it might not seem as rare.
Right.
This is actually a rather common occurrence in some of this high-level play here.
It's the high pressure.
It's the high pressure. So look, the decks can sweat too.
Right.
The decks can sweat too.
We're here with the winner of the last match, the first match of the GenCon regionalized exam. Ben Shoemaker, how's it going, man?
I'm doing pretty all right, considering I played terrible, but sometimes when you get lucky, it is a card game.
True.
Random stuff happens.
Yeah, I think as we went on in the match, you started to get a little more familiar with what the cards do and the lines. We felt you were really trepidatious at game 1. A lot of reading, a lot of not seeing quite the line in the future. Games 2 and 3, you started really chugging along.
Yeah, it was again. I picked up the deck about 30 minutes before the round started.
Right.
So I mean, I'm no stranger to card games, but still had to read a lot of cards, made some pretty egregious mistakes, not gonna lie.
But that is okay. You know, it is the natural intuition of a seasoned card player that you got
seasoned.
through.
Look at me. I'm seasoned with salt. Just leave. That's it.
Love it. So, what have you done much prep work for the tournament as a whole, or?
Absolutely not. I have hardly played this game at all. Like,
that is okay.
I literally just play with the majors just to have fun, hang out with the boys, you know. And if I do good, I do all right.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, I've bubbled out of top cuts in 2 regionals, and one of them I just tanked. You know, out of the 3 regionals I've played.
Fair.
So I get all my practice in at regionals.
Of course, as you should. You definitely should come out and join us. Join us here. I want to talk about the deck choice of Kirishima today. He's going to be all over the place. Some are, I think, a little quick to pull the trigger of wanting something to be done with this new character. How do you feel as somebody who, once again, seasoned assault in the game? How do you feel about Kirishima in the health of the format?
He seems very good. Like, I know the older players can equate this kind of like the Metalman Deforester deck is what it feels like, except not as overpowered.
That's how I feel.
I love the way his effects are laid out because he's always live, even if your hand's dead.
Mm-hmm.
As far as health of the game, I don't think he's any more problematic than Froppy or Bird Boy. They both don't care what you're doing. They're just going to do what they're going to do.
Correct.
And if you get in the way, oh, well, you're just a little speed bump. And I think he's much in the same vein. I don't think he's any different from those.
That's how I feel as well, with a different flavor, you know?
Yeah.
Like that response commit to say that I've got that extra 7th card as a partial block is really cool and interesting. And I think that the way that the character has been designed is rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I used that partial commit block once because I never wanted to use it because I wanted my character to ready to keep cycling cards.
Of course.
I wanted to.
Drawing cards is
Drawing
sweet.
cards is better than anything.
Yeah.
If you want to win, just draw twice your hand size. Your opponent can't stop it.
All right. Well, we're getting into the next round. So I'm going to let you go. Any shout outs before you head off?
Shout out all the Unfun Stun boys. Bromley, you're out there. Big smooches, even though you never return my texts. I hate you.
All right, you guys, with that, thank you, Ben. Congratulations on the win. Hopefully we'll see you in Top Cuts as you slam out with Kirishima the rest of the day.
We'll see what happens. Thanks, Tam.
Of course,
Thanks, everybody
of course.
at home.
We're moving on to the next one.
All right.